Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm kind of famous. I'm Jerry Springer. And Jaffe is no host. He'd be lucky to be in my audience, let alone on my show. Well, maybe he's crazy enough to be on my show. I take that back. And that's not a good thing.
Am I being overconfident? Am I becoming complacent about complacency?
I think you are.
Oh, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, I've got big ears.
I just want to see anyone else. Piss off.
That's the one. Because you literally complete me, and we complete each other.
You've obviously encountered discrimination in your own life by virtue of being Australian.
Hey, Manuel Camp was a real pissant who was very rarely stable.
I don't want to get too gushy, but I might just be saying you complete me, Dean. P&G now stands for Pritchard and Good.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
did I do that?
You're insane!
You see, what could go wrong? The answer is everything. I was on mute. I was so close. I was so close to being able to hit it out the park, but instead I struck out. Now, was that intentional? Did I do that on purpose just to show you that I'm flawed, that I'm human, that I'm not perfect? Hell no. I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess at the moment, but I am excited because episode 400, actually it's about 450, but guest 400, the one, the only queen visionary herself, Shanda Sumpter, is in the house. And you know what? It's people like Shanda that have found the light, the silver linings, have helped so many entrepreneurs persevere, get to the next level during tough, turbulent, uncertain times. Bob Farnham says you're muted. I know. Tell me something I don't know. And Glenn is here, and he said, a cup of my daily Joe. Well, here is a cup of my daily Joe. It's only coffee number 3. Apparently, I needed coffee number 4 in order to remember that, in fact, I was muted. Now, I've got a little bit of a gift for you. I've got a little bit of JAFFE coin, my cryptocurrency, my creator coin. Where is that link? Oh, here it is. Right now, if you have 10 JAFFE coin, you get free JAFFE coin every single live episode. And remember, this QR code is only live while the show is live. So what we are doing here is we are rewarding people that are engaging with the show, people that are commenting on the show. You can absolutely watch the show afterwards. You can enjoy it afterwards. You can cut and paste. You can look at the cliff notes, at the show notes. But there's something magical about live, including the fact that, I can be muted at any given point in time. And so we get to experience this together. That, to me, makes it really, really exciting. Now, many of you know that I've launched a collection, a mastermind meets always on conference meets premium community meets networking a platform called Alpha Collective. Part of Alpha Collective is something that we call the Collective Cafe. Now, the Collective Cafe takes place Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. in the Discord server. And the beautiful thing about it is it's free. It's free for all. It's a free for all. Sometimes it can be a free for all. In fact, tomorrow is what we call No Agenda Friday, where there is no agenda because it's Friday. But the one thing that I have started to do is tomorrow, I will take my notes from today's episode and I will transcribe them live. I will write up my notes and I will talk about the insights, the nuggets from today's show. So it's a real good opportunity to actually come and join us in Discord and discuss the show. It's kind of like an after show, but it happens the next morning. Today, we had an amazing conversation based on Dan Fail's interview. Just so many amazing nuggets. And of course, when you're born in this world and your last name is F-A-I-L-L, how can you not become a consultant helping people understand and become comfortable with failing and how to fail fast and fail smart and fail first and actually realize that failure is a path, is a process that leads to incredible things. In fact, Sir Ken Robinson, the quote that I actually showed yesterday, he actually said, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you will never, ever be able to produce something original. In other words, if you're not prepared to fail, you will never be truly creative. What a beautiful, beautiful insight. So that's the Collective Cafe, and that is tomorrow. But now is the Seated Soliloquy. And the Seated Soliloquy today, not coincidentally, is focused and connected to my very special guest, and it's called Turn Around. Now, I'm not going to get into a little bit of Bonnie Tyler, Turnaround, Total Eclipse of the Heart, as much as I know you would like me to do that. But, the word turn around, as you can see, it's been very conveniently separated by this particular poll. You could look at it as a one-word turnaround, a business turnaround, a pivot, maybe a reinvention, a transformation. So many of us have become forever changed. So many of us have gone through these turnaround moments over the last 2.5 years. Global pandemics will kind of do that to you. Maybe our experience got just, exacerbated by getting laid off. But here's the thing, you don't necessarily need a crisis in order to turn around. Shanda probably will tell you what you do need is a good coach. What you need is a mentor. What you need is an accountability partner. And what you need is to be able to create the skills that allow you to turn around when you're going down a dead end, to anticipate it, to feel it, to your spidey sense to tell you, turn around now. Avoid going so far down a one-way path, a dead end, that you feel so vested that you can't turn around. So we could look at it quite literally as turn around. Turn around. Turn around doesn't have to be a 180. Sometimes it can be a look left or a look right. Just turning, pivoting, swiveling, shifting perspective, being able to sometimes take a step back, or what I call zooming out. Maybe it's even an out-of-body experience that allows you to just see things from a slightly different perspective. Sometimes even just an incremental shift can allow you to realize exponential results in the process. So whether you are ready right now to turn around or for a turnaround, as I just wrote into a presentation that I'm giving next week, and you've probably all heard this many times, maybe even on the show, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And by today, I mean right here, right now, on Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous, with my guest who will no doubt inspire you to turn around. I'm talking about Shanda Sumpter. A little bit about her and what an amazing background and bio she has. Shanda Sumpter is the queen visionary of hardcore business, a training company on the brink of hitting 8 figures designed to give entrepreneurs the powerful systems they can use to share their gift and use those gifts to create profitable, sustainable businesses. By the way, I also have an 8-figure business, but I have the decimal point involved as well. I know it's a dad joke. Today, Shanda is a dynamic speaker, trainer, and business coach, as well as a best-selling author and owner of a multi-million-dollar business, and a wife and a mom with plenty of time for family self-development, hobbies and rest. I'm exhausted even just thinking about that. She lives in a beautiful house on the ocean and she loves her life. What a beautiful thing to have in a bio. She's experienced her own journey from struggle to triumph. There was a time when she only had $500 to her name and was facing the prospect of moving back home to her parents' house in Canada. She knew then that it was time to make a change, so she hired a mentor, and that became the catalyst for a domino effect of miracles that set the stage for hardcore business and its evolution into a multi-million-dollar company. What an amazing, amazing introduction. But wait, I'm not done. I told her there'd be surprises. So please just watch this.
Other people have done it before you, so you could do it.
Let's transform the world together. Let's take a stand for generosity.
Let me show you how to reach more people. Shanda Sumpter.
Guest number 400, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
You know, Shanda, I always say that my current guest is the best guest yet. But at 400, you have to be the best guest yet.
I love that. I'll own that. I'll definitely own that.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun today. And, you know, I love, you know, when you've done this as much as I have, 400 different guests, words, phrases, differences in bios just leap out at you. And, you know, the point about loving your life, that's not something you see in a bio ever.
Really?
Why do you? Yeah, I mean, just to be able to say like, I'm happy. I love my life. I'm fulfilled. It's joyous, and it just makes, you know, it endears the person reading the bio to want to read more, because who doesn't want to love their life?
I love that. When you were reading my bio, I was sending messages to our team saying we need to update our bio. And I love sharing that because it's so great to, like, one of the things I think is really neat about you is that you embrace messiness. And, you know, I do love my life. I think I broke free financially when I started to embrace loving my life. But there's things in that bio that are wrong. We're surpassed the income bracket that you talked about there. We don't live in Southern California as of 2 months ago. We moved to Puerto Rico and made the hard decision to leave beautiful San Diego at a very, very high 50% tax bracket and move to Puerto Rico. But we still do live on the ocean. When you're reading that bio, I was going, yep, not giving up my ocean, still live on the ocean over top of.
By the way, that doesn't sound like a hard decision to leave a 50% tax bracket, I must admit. It sounds like a very easy decision.
Yeah, it is but I'm sure people watching this show can relate to, if you feel pressure, you feel like things are tough, the pressure is what kind of takes you out of your productivity. But I was thinking about moving to Puerto Rico for 2 years. And what's amazing is within a year and a half to 2 years, I think it'll be about a year and a half by my calculations, we will have doubled our like entire life's wealth. And so wow. From living in California, I'm thinking, gosh, imagine what would have happened if I would have made a decision faster, because money always loves speed. But I dragged my feet because I was comfortable. Right. And so, you know, anyway, let's get on with the show, Joseph. But I love what you're up to here. And I'm just happy to just pour into these people and share anything I know to help them get ahead, because we are in a crazy market, but this crazy market is a crazy opportunity to get ahead.
So crazy market equals crazy opportunity. But even in that what you just shared, which is we always wonder if we should have moved quicker. We always wonder if we dragged our feet. And I suppose the corollary of that is the fact that maybe this was the time and your time was now and our time is now. It goes back again, you know, to the oak tree, which is we can, you know, I mean, certainly the results have demonstrated that you made the right decision at the right time, but lamenting on what could have happened and what might have happened, it sometimes will hold us back, as opposed to just saying, well, we can't change the past, but we damn well can change the future.
For sure. You can learn wisdom from it. Wisdom equals skill, right? So if I could rewind to do it again, I would have moved 2 years ago, for sure, 100%. But there's opportunities now because the housing market is crashing. And, $10 million homes here in Dorado Beach literally are going for $5 million and $4.5 million now as we're doing this show right now. Who knows where they'll be in a couple months from now. But so that is right timing. So I think you could make timing right. Like you can make timing right for sure, but maybe I would have come to Puerto Rico and I would have maybe not gone to Dorado, or maybe I would have rented in Dorado and then I would have bought now. I just think learning from the past is a powerful thing, but looming on it is not. So I look at what am I gaining? And that's a big nugget for people when you make a decision. The reason why we can't make decisions fast is we're always focused on what we're losing versus what we're actually gaining. So if I would have focused on what I was gaining, not what I was losing, I would have made the move. So I'm not worried about the fact that we didn't do it. I'm happy that we're here today and I see all of the potential and the greatness, but I want to learn from it. Because if I would, I could have been 2 years ahead of where I am right now. And I'm not going to cry over spilt milk, but I'm darn well going to follow my instincts a little bit quicker next time.
Yeah, I mean, I love that insight. I took a very popular saying, which is, if I'd known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I've changed that to if I'd known then what I know now, I would have started a year earlier. It's exactly that point, which is, and there's the mess. So I actually call it FOMO, which is, no, sorry, not FOMO, JOMO, which is joy of messing up. Right.
Nice.
So like I coined that. There it is. JOMO, joy of messing up, but also joy of the mess. It invigorates me because it's not clean and pristine and cookie cutter. This is yeah. Well, I was going to say this is me. This is authenticity, and you just came up with a great word there. Freedom. It feels liberating.
Yeah, no, it is. And anybody who pretends like they've got it all wrapped up in a box is lying. And I can't even imagine what it's like to live under that mask.
And it is a mask, right? It is a mask, and it is suffocating, I suppose.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So what is the number one thing that you think your audience needs right now, Joseph?
What is the number? Well, the number one thing that they need right now is to find out some fun facts about you. That's what they need right now. They want to, everyone.
It's like the hardest thing. When you're such an entrepreneur, it's like, literally I have a show coming up in a couple of days, which is actually tomorrow, which is all about how do I squeeze more fun out of my life. So I'm prepared for you. My timing is right. I'm prepared for you. But normally I hate being asked that question. You know why?
You don't have to answer it because we've already done the due diligence. We've sent our reporters into the field. Why don't you tell me why though?
Because when you're driven, you're often focusing on how to get to the next level. That often you forget to put the same attention on fun. Okay, so what did you figure out?
Well, what we figured out, and that is that, I mean, the thing is, with your level of performance and intensity and incredible energy, there's so much about you that is peace and meditative and grounding. So, for example, you love to listen to the sound of the rain. And so that's an interesting fun fact. No one's ever said that they love to listen to the sound of the rain. What does it do to you and what does it do for you?
Yeah, so last night, it wasn't raining last night, but wind and rain, I just love. A bunch of us women went on a prayer walk and we walked down to the ocean, and there's a tropical storm coming into Puerto Rico right now. And so the wind is gusting, and I don't know, there's this level of power from like the weather, but it's also just tranquilizing for me. So like when I was a little girl, I used to put umbrellas all around me in the rain because I'm from Vancouver, Canada. So everybody from Vancouver, Canada knows it rains all the time. And I would lay on my grandmother's lawn chair with umbrellas and big fluffy blankets around me and fall asleep to the sound of the rain on the umbrellas. I just love that. Isn't that fun?
It's a lot of fun. And you know what else is fun is something else that we learned about you, which is coloring. You are, I guess, a child at heart. You love to color and draw. and it helps you focus.
Okay, so I have to convince my 7-year-old to color with me. He's now finally gotten into drawing and painting, but I have to convince him to color with me because I just love to sit there at night and put on a movie or put on like gospel music or jazz or Frank Sinatra and just color.
You know, there are amazing apps out there. There's also, I'm sure you've seen them, the apps where you kind of click on the little dots and you color in, and it's unbelievably calming. You know, as you
I don't know that
kind of,
those apps. You need to send me one.
I'm going to send it to you. And so basically, it's just color by numbers. And you just sit there and you can obviously, you know, choose how large or small the pixels are. Like I suppose doing a jigsaw puzzle with 50 pieces or 5,000 pieces. I will send that to you afterwards. Well, we've got one more fun fact about you, and it's more than fun. It's more, I think, purposeful, which is one of your most important priorities is how you can get closer to God. And it's interesting because connected to that is this idea of being obsessed with giving. It made me think of the giving tree, and in keeping with coloring in, etc. Talk a little bit about the connection between God and giving, and why you would talk about that in the same breath, and how that powers you ultimately.
Yeah, so there's a Bible app out there that's really great, whether you're kind of into that stuff or not, to just go listen to the Bible app. You can actually look at kingdom entrepreneurs, and giving is it's a huge door to your heart to be able to just explode out of marketing and into a movement. And so I've always been giving. When I was a little girl, I used to go get chocolate bars for my stepmom and put it under her pillow when she was an air stewardess and she'd fly. And I would see that would create like this. She always thought it was from my dad. Like I did it from my dad. She never knew it was from me. I'm not sure if she even knows now that it was from me. I just have found that giving just creates this connection. And then as I got older and got into marketing and business and entrepreneurship, when people were struggling to figure out what to offer, how much to price things, I just was never good at like the limiters and all the things you got to do in business to be able to create, incredible impact and make a lot of money online. I wasn't really good about it because I always felt sleazy or dirty. But when I started to apply the same heart as giving chocolates to my stepmom, I started to offer things that they'd look at me and go, I can't believe and I'm not talking about discounting programs. I'm talking about adding things to whatever it is that I was offering that would raise the price, but raise the take rate. And it was through not being afraid to give too much. So whenever somebody says to me, Shanda, I give too much. I'm like, no, you're giving from the wrong place. And if you give from the wrong place, you're going to get exhausted. And that exhaustion comes from pressure because you're still trying to either get approval or get money or get whatever. I just am so free when it comes to money now because God just taught me how to give at a level where I know where I'm getting it from. Do you know what I mean? Like I just have complete peace. Here's something that nobody knows. I hear audible voices. Well, my team knows. So I will come into a marketing meeting and say, hey guys, this is the way that all the digital marketing teaches. This is the way we've always done it. This was all last year. And I'd hear an audible voice that would tell me to change the offer day or to change the offer or to do this. And it was all against the grain. And we would do it, and I would have to manage the minds of my team because they're not all believers, some of them all, but they're not all believers. And so I'm like, hey, I know this is crazy, but I heard an audible voice this morning. It was super clear, and we're going to do it like this. And here's how we'll fix the campaign if it doesn't work. Joseph, I'm telling you, not only did the campaigns work, but we made more money than we've ever made in our entire career inside of Hardcore Business because we followed God's blueprint. So you can find all that in scripture. You can, like, Proverbs is a great, find a translation that you can understand that doesn't put you to sleep, if that's the case. And it reads like the best personal development or marketing guide you've ever seen. And Proverbs will tell you 100% how to make so much money that you can become a blessing to other people. So that's kind of how giving and work and giving and marriage and giving and just happiness and just feeling completely, I wouldn't say content with my life. I'm happy with my life. I feel very, very fulfilled, created way more than I thought that we'd create at this point. But the truth is that I have a healthy drive to go the next level because I want to see how big, how strong, how many people we can impact and how many people we can bring along the way. And that's not a motivational speech. It is how we operate inside of Hardcore Business, including our team. I want our parking lot to be G-Wagons and Beamers, because like from the team that works from us, because they learn the same thing the entrepreneurs do. Make sense?
Yes, I mean, you said a lot of very interesting, very, very interesting points there, and I was trying to synthesize and I was jotting down a couple of things. The first thing that hit me was this idea of the difference between being happy and being content, and there is something that is more religious based than secular based, which is this idea that when you've been given a God, when you have a God-given talent, when you've been given an opportunity, don't hold back. Don't,
Well, every
don't
immigrant
sit
knows
back.
this.
Yeah.
Every immigrant knows this. If you've immigrated to, like, I'm Canadian, I moved to America. And I'm telling you, I was so broke it hurt sitting on my bedroom floor. Like, I remember sitting there, $500 in an envelope. That is in my bio, right? And it was in the closet. And I remember sitting on the floor, not allowed to work. Nobody could hire me legally. And, the only way I could stay in America was to go to school. I went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And I only went to school, by the way, because I wanted to get into America. It was my ticket into America. And so I paid foreign national funding to be able to go to school. So probably 3 or 4x what it cost to go to university. And then I couldn't work. And I remember sitting on the floor, 500 in an envelope in my closet, and sitting there with my hands, my head in my hands going, if I could just work. Like, I was like, look at and I don't mean to put anybody down, but I was like, these freaking Americans, like, they're complaining about working. Like, I would do anything to work right now. Like, just let me work. Like, it's such a privilege. And I think that's when my work ethic got developed, because something clicked inside of me where that hard moment, I just remember I kept saying, work is a privilege. Like, I would do anything. I'll clean the toilets. Like, I will do anything. And I still, by the way, we have thousands of people who come to our events, thousands. We have events, 2 or 3 events every single month. I don't lead them all inside the company, but we have a lot of events inside of Hardcore Business. And when on the live events, Joseph, I still go in the women's bathroom and pick up toilet paper and throw it in the garbage. Because I want the customer to have a great experience, which comes back to that giving concept, right? I'm not too high. I'm not elite, but yet I have a private jet. You know what I mean? But you would never know that to see me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I tell you what does make sense is I'm hitching a ride the next time you're in town. That's for sure. But I mean, there are a couple of things that are interesting. One is this idea of humility, of never forgetting your past, never forgetting your roots. I have a little bit of fun on the show, which is I always tell people what their next book is going to be called. So I guess yours would be called Shanda and the Chocolate Factory, or Chocolate Marketing. But the essence of it is something that my first boss once told me: the smallest things are the cheapest things, or the most valuable things. The little chocolate, even the chocolate on the pillow that you see in a hotel, going into the bathroom and being able to pick up a piece of paper. It's the small things that actually are the most memorable. And if not to people, certainly to you, because they ground you and they connect you back to that, that moment with $500 to your name, begging for the opportunity to work.
Yeah, actually, I'm inspired by listening to this come up on your show, because I'm actually going to write a story on that. I'm going to start reading it every morning, because I think the more you can have gratitude, and gratitude journals are amazing, but let's be honest, most of us don't do them consistently. We do them when we need them, like a heroin fix. You know what I mean? Like, I need a character fix. And I'm going to write down my story, because it's really important to remember where you come from. And like everybody who's married, there was one time you prayed for that husband or that wife, right? And now you've got them and maybe you're complaining about them, or you're not cherishing them the way that you want to. Or there was a time I just literally just used to pray and meditate, do every hack I could. Before I was Christian, I carried around crystals, right? And so, you know, it's like I did every hocus pocus thing you could imagine out there, and so many people do, to be able to figure out how to help people and how to make money and how to break free, and which was all about me. And whenever it's all about you trying to get somewhere or break free, which is where all the new age stuff comes in. You know, it's like we're so misled in personal development, and we're just so misled, where it's like the minute that I start thinking about you, Joseph, is the minute that we actually start having a great relationship. The minute I stop looking to my husband to be fair in the marriage, or it's a 50-50 game in the friendship, the more I stop playing that game and the more I start playing, like, when I put my head down to sleep, I was a great friend. Whether or not you were a great friend or not, whether or not my husband brought me flowers or not. And so my integrity lays in how I show up in my character, no matter what anybody is doing to me. And that makes leadership easy. That's what makes marketing easy. That's what makes making money easy. And I'm not saying there's not work involved, but I'm telling you, there is money everywhere. There are friendships everywhere. There are people to fall in love with everywhere. Like, this idea that there is a scarcity world is so not true. This idea that if Joseph makes a bunch of money, I should feel bad about that. Like, Joseph's not taking any money off my table. The great thing is we can both win. There's no limitation. I mean, let's be honest. They keep printing more of it anyway, but there's no limitation of it. Like, there's so much love, abundance, all of that. And what's really important is that I don't want people to think I'm some motivational speaker out there. Like, I work 15 days a month. I take 1 week off. We have an 8-figure company. It's growing massively. We have another company. We may be starting a third company here. I don't run them all, right? And so it's not like that doesn't take really good leadership to sit back and figure out how to move the chess pieces and what's a priority. There's work involved. There is stress involved. There are sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning ideas that come up, and not because of inspiration, but because I got to solve a problem, right? So all of that's still there, and I don't strive for balance, but I know at the end of the day, like, who I am, no matter what a review says online. Does that make sense?
It does. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to connect a few dots, because the first thing you've said to me before I sabotaged you with your fun facts was, you said, what does your audience want? Like, what can I do? What can I do for you? What do they want to hear? And so I'm going to paint a picture. We have Shanda, who was sitting on the floor with $500 to her name, and unable to work and desperate to work. And here you are now, and you're working 15 days a month, and you have the private jet, and you're full, and you're happy, and you're fulfilled. And people want that for them. And let's just say, and they're happy for you, and they're happy for me, but they desperately want to figure out how to get unstuck. What is the first step? What is the next step? How do they make that transition? How do they pull themselves out of the quicksand of status quo, or of being miserable in a job, or not having a job? How do they begin that journey to maybe not to be you, but to learn from you, and to perhaps emulate some of that success?
Yeah. So what are you willing to do? So a very simple thing, there's 50 ways to find the money. And there's 50 ways to find the money in the next 48 hours. One could be, I could sell my house in San Diego. May not want to, but I can. Another is I could sell my car. See, I'll say something like that to people, and they say, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, but that's just a thing. Like my treasures are not in that. I enjoy those things, but they're not in that. So I could go to my stepdad and ask him to lend me money. I could go pull a line of equity out of my house. I could call you, Joseph, after and say, hey, would you be willing to invest $10,000 and I'll give you 25 or 30% on your money in the next year. There are so many ways to find the money. And a lot of people don't do that. So number one is you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to do? Like, is freedom really important to you? Because if it is, you're going to have to let go of something. I mean, I let go of my car when I was growing my business for an entire year. It took that expense out. I think I made $2,000 on it. It gave me $2,000. So it gave me a little runway. But I'm going to say, based on right now, with this show coming out, you've got some of the best real estate market coming up over the next 2 years. But I wouldn't be thinking 2 years because people are lacking urgency. So you're on a runway, right? Everybody's on a runway. Make sure you're on the right runway. So right now, the runway is that the real estate market is crashing. You could tie up a home and wholesale it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, be resourceful, get hungry, go to YouTube and look under YouTube how to wholesale a property, right? How do you wholesale a property? You can actually tie up a property and you can sell it to an investor and you can create a bird dog, which is like a finder's fee. You might not know what I'm talking about. But if you just heard that, that's a way to find the money. And so, but I don't want to do real estate. I don't like real estate. I'm not smart about that. And so everybody's in their resistance. And I just can't coach that because it's just like, you're not ready. This is why so many people that reach these higher levels of income brackets, they stop being at your table. And the reason why they stop being at your table is because at the end of the dinner, all you've done is sucked a bunch of advice and never took action on it. I don't mean to be crass, but somebody's got to be true. And my intention of being here on this show is not to make more friends. It's actually my mission is to take the middle class and get them out of that neighborhood and get them onto the private jets, get them onto the right neighborhoods. And it doesn't have to take long. If you've been in business for 3 years and you're not a millionaire, something's wrong. Something's massively wrong with where you're putting your focus and how you're taking action. Massively wrong. However, you could become a millionaire in a year. It's not an income claim, obviously, but you can become a millionaire in a year with what's happening in the market. If you cleaned up your credit, say you had bad credit, I have somebody who could do it. I know he'd work. I don't have an affiliate fee with it, but it's about being good, a good person. Clean up your credit if you need to clean up your credit. If it costs you $3,000, don't have $3,000, go sell your freaking car. You'll figure out how to get to these different places, and Uber might be cheaper. So then the second thing is that if you could get $20,000 or $25,000 cash in the next couple months, you could lease option a house. Now, if you have bad credit, somebody won't let you rent to own, which is lease option, which means you can control the real estate, write it off on your taxes, and have equity and have somebody else finance it and never, ever put a mortgage, at least for the next few years, in your name. So I share this with you, not because I'm a real estate guru. I'm not. I'm a business coach. I'm a leadership coach. I'm a mom. I'm like God's daughter. Like I'm all of that. But I'm a wealth girl. And I'm going to figure out where I need to go when and pivot. And I'm going to pivot fast. So I lost my you-know-what in 08 and 09 in the real estate market. I lost 3 homes. I got bad credit. My stepdad, I remember where I was going through a Starbucks, and my stepdad said to me, I'm crying. Imagine this. I'm going through the Starbucks. I'm buying probably a $5 coffee, right? And I've got mortgages to pay, but the $5 coffee is still not going away.
Got to have priorities.
I know. So I'm going through Starbucks in my X5, my white X5 BMW, like, duh. And so I'm going through Starbucks, and my stepdad says, let all the properties go. And I am feeling like the biggest loser. I mean, why would anybody listen to me? And I had a real estate license, right, at that time. And he said, let all your properties go. And I felt like a loser. And he said, Shanda, he's a great businessman. By the way, he's almost gone bankrupt like 4 times. And so, but he's a great businessman. He's risked big. He's played big. He's lost big, but he has an incredible life, an incredible story. So that was one of my big losses. So he said, you're going to learn how to create cash, and that's going to benefit you for the rest of your life. My friends, look for the opportunity right now in whatever crisis you're facing. Look for the opportunity. Look for what you're gaining, not for what you're losing. And if you can do that, it will unhook you from the shame. That's demonic. The shame, the guilt, none of that is good stuff, right? Like it's not made of you. So I looked for the gain because he put my eyes on the gain. He said, you are going to learn how to create cash because you're not going to be able to rent anything because you're going to have to pay more. You're not going to be able to buy another car. You're not going to be able to do anything that for 7 years. Well, 7 years at that time in my life felt like I'd be old after 7 years. But he was right. And he said, the real estate market's going to repair and you're going to have credit and cash and you're going to be able to get back in. That's exactly what happened. I ended up getting my oceanfront condo, then my oceanfront home. You know, I built an incredible company, built a second company, all because I learned how to create cash. So when everybody's afraid and curling up in the middle of the living room floor because engagement is down online or the recession is hitting, I'm just sitting there going, this is just another gain moment. This is a huge moment. When everybody hits the ground in the fetal position, you should be rising up and leading from here's the opportunity, here's the gain. You know, if you can lead like that, you will crush it. So the gain is 25,000. Get into the real estate market. Get into the best area you can, whether it's buying a piece of junk house in the best area that's super big that you can renovate over the next couple years, whatever it is, whether it's a piece of land, if you do construction loans, they're so little, they're like a car payment for years. Well, not years, a year and a half before the last few months before the house is built. And maybe you sell the house at that point if you can't afford it, or maybe you move into it. Or maybe you do a rent to own. Whatever you do, get into the real estate market as it's crashing. And don't listen to any agents. True story. The agent in Southern California said to me, sold the house across the street for $6.7 million in 3 days. My house is nicer than the house across the street, full ocean views in SoCal, in Southern California. And she said she was trying to get my house. And we're like, we're moving to Puerto Rico. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to spend half our life in San Diego, half our life in Puerto Rico. Then we got to Puerto Rico and the attorneys said, here's a COVID moment. Here's like a landslide moment. Here's a recession. Here's whatever it is, heart surgery for you, Joseph. Like, here's the moment that throws your whole plan off track. Well, California is going to come after you for X amount of taxes if you get divorced.
I had my hand on the button and I was like so enthralled by what you said. I was ready to hit you with the air horn because I'm like just loving the energy. That's what's called PA, premature air horn. There is medication. There is medication to fix it, but please carry on.
So she sells our house and she says to us, you know, I'm telling her, I don't know what's going to happen with the real estate market. And you guys all know this. The real estate agent drinking the Kool-Aid, who's very experienced, says, well, the real estate market in Southern California on the coast never goes down. In 08 and 09, here's what it did. It did just adjusted by a second, but it never went down. So now I call her 2 months later and I say, hey, I'd like to sell our house. And she says, I wish I had the text up because I'd love to show you. Well, you do know that the real estate market has massively adjusted in the last 60 days. I'm going, you know, so everybody listening, trust your gut. Money loves speed. Move fast. Don't be afraid of what you're losing. I should have sold that house 2 months ago. My husband and I should have sold it. We should have pulled our house, honestly, we owe 1.9 on it. The property in a real market is probably worth maybe 4.2, really, maybe 4.2, but we could have sold it for 6.6, 6.7 2 months ago. Now I'm standing on it sells for 7 million and I'm praying on that. And I want to see a miracle of God, and somebody just loves it and takes care of it and just has amazing memories in it. But the truth is that we are in a bubble that's crashing and it's crashing everywhere. And don't listen to anyone. Get into the real estate market next year.
Hell, I'm going to get into the real estate market as soon as the show is done. And I'm keeping my fingers away from the air horn. There was so much in there in terms of the advice from your stepdad, which is the equivalent of having, whether it's a father figure, a mother figure, a mentor, a coach, someone that has the wisdom, but the thing that overwhelmed me from what you just shared and use the example of real estate is, first of all, I'm thinking, it doesn't matter what industry, Shanda's got an answer for, will help you figure out how you can profit and benefit from that. But it is the enthusiasm and the passion, which is infectious. And I wondered, and you see this across the board with high net worth, with coaches, with life coaches. Have you always had, and I won't even get into the whole concept of an abundance versus a limiting mindset. I want to ask you about enthusiasm. Have you always had this enthusiasm, this energy, this passion, even going back to that $500 day? Or is it something that you've learned how to create, harness, bottle, and use to your advantage?
So I think it was always in me, but as everybody goes through trials and tribulations, I used to be really shy. And because when I was a young girl, I have a video out there called something, it's on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, but I can't remember the title, but it's about how it was called Stupid all through when I was younger. And the video went viral. There's so many views on it. It's unbelievable. And so because I was called stupid a lot as a child, I didn't trust myself. So I didn't take up a lot of space. So sure, if we were in a house or we knew each other really well, I was the girl that would be like, good morning, but as soon as you put me around anybody I didn't know, I kind of stood with my shoulders in and just didn't take up a lot of space. I still fly under the radar. Our company's up there with a lot of the guys out in the world and the big companies. And like I said, we're a business and a leadership coaching company. We have a virtual assistant company. But half my friends don't realize what we do in revenue until they load on our jet, or they come to one of our events that has thousands and thousands of people. My friend Lee Richter came to one of our events a couple of years ago and was like, holy, you know what? I had no idea that you were a boss like this. And it's because I just don't lead with it. So I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's been a part of my story of humility and kind of taking up space.
Yeah, but the one thing that's amazing, back to being called stupid when you were young, some people are running towards, and other people, and I don't want to say running from, but because you weren't running from that, but you were pushing off against that. And I think sometimes the motivation can be as powerful as because you'll, and I say this with only deference and respect, you'll never be content and you'll never be satisfied, because there's always a tomorrow. There's always the next goal. And in a way, I remember my first boss as well. I learned a lot from them. They said they were more motivated by the fear of failure than the sweet taste of success. And that I pick up from you as well, which is know who you want, you know what you don't want, and you know what you're pushing off against. And that propels you forward to discover and uncover whatever uncertainty lies ahead. And you don't even need to know what it is. You just know that you will beat it and overcome it when it is presented to you.
Yeah, it's this culture of runway. I literally look at runways. I'm on a runway. I want to create a certain revenue amount by 50. And then I'm sure I'll be on a new runway after that. But some of the fears that come up are, what will my energy be like after 50? And I don't want anybody to water that down. I don't want anybody to say, oh, Shanda, I'm 50 or so-and-so 60 and they have all this energy. I don't want to know that. To me, that's watering me down. I'm like, actually, I would rather you tell me, cancer goes up after 50, and I know this sounds morbid, y'all, but we had a conversation in my house with a bunch of entrepreneurs here in Puerto Rico last night. And we were talking about, I can't remember where it is in scripture, but it's basically, we're all moving to death at some point. And there was a time that I wanted to write, you are going to die on the end of my bed on the wall. And I thought my husband will kill me. And what if I'm prophesizing that over my life? But then we came up with this idea last night where it said, ultimately, you'll die. And I thought, oh, that feels good, because what it tells me is that I should treat my husband better today. I should work harder today. I should 100%. And then the should becomes, when you see that I will ultimately die, you start to go, after that conversation last night, even today, I'm talking to my husband, I'm going, we might be, who knows? We might be halfway through our life right now. And I have more wisdom today. You have more wisdom today. Everybody watching has more wisdom today than we've ever had. And so what are we doing with it? What are we
What
doing
are we
with
waiting
it?
for?
There is a lack of urgency. And this is why I'm writing a whole book called Runway right now, because it's just like people are taking entirely too long, and they know it, to create the results in their life. And half the time it's because it's for their own selfish identity, or it means that I'm good, or like, you got to get past that stuff. Like, enough already. I have a personal development course. I'll tell you, enough already. Like, get out of the way. The game is not about you. It's not about you. It's about, what are you doing for other people? And you've got to get obsessed. And I don't mean interested. I mean obsessed, because ultimately you're going to die. And that's a big nugget.
Yeah, I can relate, because, well, not because I almost died, but because of the fact that, I heard this great quote, which is, people say you only live once. And that is not true. You only die once. You live every single day. So make the most of it.
Good point. Great point.
I love that as well. And so, it comes down to, like, just staying on the kind of slightly morbid, but it's not really morbid at all, is if you knew when you were going to die and how you were going to die, and it's almost rhetorical, because I know where your answer would be, but what would you do differently? How would you live your life differently to the way you're living it right now? And your answer would be?
Well, first of all, Gary Brecka, if you don't know him, 10X Health, he can tell you, he can pull your medical records, and he can tell you almost to the day, of definitely the month, that you will pass. And I know that does sound morbid. People are like, why would I want to know? I don't know. Have you seen somebody like get a life-threatening illness and they're told you're going to pass on this date? Some of them use that time wisely, and some of them don't. Right. And so, I would say I'm on that almost every day. My goal is to get connected to that every day. So I'm getting so much benefit of being on this show, because not only am I going to create my list of why work is a privilege, but I'm also going to add into that morning letter to myself that I'm going to read out loud, is ultimately I'm going to die. Right. Because I think that is the runway we should be on, to make sure that we're not in like this. How long have you been dealing with distractions? How long have you been like, oh, I got worthiness issues? Okay. Like, this is boring already. Like it's all about you. And it's just such a low leadership conversation. I don't mean to offend anybody, but aren't you tired of looking at you all the time? Like, you already know everything about you. I mean, what if you just got obsessed with everybody else around you? I mean, how well do you know your friends? How well do you know your spouses or people you do life with? How well do you know your parents? You know what I mean? Like, how well do you really know them? Not like your experience of them in your life, but how well do you really know them? Because they will ultimately die too. And so I just think that we could just be so much better humans and so much more respectful to this life of us having, if we actually just ultimately got on a runway that we put so much jet fuel behind it that we went as high as we could go. And I think that, like, yes, it's gratitude, it's urgency, it's being present, it's all of that. But what makes all of that come true is ultimately getting connected to this idea of what would you do if you were going to die tomorrow?
Yeah. And I've got more book ideas for you. One is going to be called "Don't Water Me Down."
I like that. I'm going to use that.
These could be LinkedIn articles. And the other one is, it's all about you. It's instead of, and I don't mean you, I mean, it's me saying it's about you. It's you saying it's about me. It's such a powerful, powerful idea, because it brings in curiosity. It brings in humility, and it takes the pressure off the magnifying glass of, your fiercest critic is the person oftentimes that's staring at you in the mirror. Fudding, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, fudding you. Stop fudding yourself. And I would say it's time to turn FUD into fun. I'm having fun with you. And we have about 5 minutes left before, I don't know, before I prematurely hit the air horn again. But it's funny, with all this talk about death, I've never felt so alive. And Shanda, there are a few things that you talk about that I just wanted you to touch on very briefly. But before we do that, I always try and find a quote for my guests. And this is the one that I found for you. When the truth gets buried deep beneath 1,000 years of sleep, time demands a turnaround. And once again, the truth is found. And that was said by the late and great George Harrison. And how do you interpret that? I'll tell you how I interpret that, but how do you interpret that quote? It must be lyrics from one of his songs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at that again as the power of the pivot. Like you, when the truth gets buried deep beneath you, you're lost. You're frustrated. There's some emotional trigger going on. And the emotional trigger takes you out of your power. So you get your power back, and then you can truly go, okay, what is my truth? Where should I be moving? I mean, the truth is we all know what we should be doing. We're just not doing it because we have an emotional something taking us out of our power. So that's what that quote means to me.
I actually just got goosebumps as you were saying that, because what I realized in that is that when you turn around and when you kind of make the leap or take the leap or pursue your side hustle or quit your job, what you're actually doing is not turning away from where you were. You're turning towards where you were meant to be.
Yeah.
And so it's this idea of truth is you recognize, Diane Arbor said, it's what I've never seen before that I recognize because it is the truth. So that is such a great insight. I want to make sure that people know that Shanda Sumpter is doing amazing things. She's not the queen visionary for nothing. Please go and check out hardcorebusiness.com and you can actually see some of the things she's doing, some of the programs. You can actually kind of get ready to get helped. I love the fact that the website says, train me, Shanda. It's like, feed me, Seymour. Feed me, Seymour. Are you ready for a turnaround? Are you ready to turn around to actually face the right direction on the runway? Shanda, you said this amazing thing, which is it's all about the runway, but make sure you're on the right runway. And I would add to that, make sure you're facing the right direction on the runway so that when you take off, you are moving in the right direction. There is no doubt that if you just follow Shanda, go to hardcorebusiness.com, go to trainmeshanda.com. And follow her on Instagram, where she's doing incredible things. Your socials are off the hook, let me tell you, because people resonate with what you have to say. And if you want to know when you're going to die, you can contact Shanda as well. She'll tell you.
So good.
Well, listen, I wish that, what, maybe I'm going to squeeze in one idea, which I really just wanted you to touch on, even if we go a couple minutes later. One of the things you talk about is you're closer than you think. Keep going. So this alludes to the fact that people give up prematurely, and sometimes they give up so close to that moment, and they don't even know how close they are. What can you tell people to keep going, even when every bone in their body tells them, to pull the plug?
So everybody write this down. I complete what I start. So the minute you see yourself trying to pull back to make it easier, to take the pressure off, that's when you are so close. So it's like you're in a box, and if you pull back, you're basically hammering the box shut from the inside of it. And so the minute you think you can't handle something, the minute you're about to move a date out, like my book should be done on this time, I'm going to move it out. Or I said that I was going to go for dinner, but I'm so tired, I'm just not going to do it. Every single time you do that, you are hammering in. Imagine you're in a coffin or a box better, and you're hammering the nails to make sure that you stay in that box. And so you work so hard to grow. You work so hard to go to the next level. In that moment, when you're trying to move a date or move an appointment or a commitment, that's the time that you're so close. You're closer than you think. So you've got to follow through. And I'll end on this, Joseph. I have a client who just called me, and she was making $20,000 a year 2.5 years ago. And now she's doing 100, sometimes 200,000 a month. She's been doing that all this year. And so her second year with us. And she didn't want to hire us because she was afraid of investing more. And it was my husband that actually saw her and just really encouraged her, step up, Sarah, like you can do this, step up. And she was like I made the best money I've ever made, but there's the nails, right? I need to do a few more things before I feel ready. And if she would have done that, she wouldn't be where she is today. But she literally messaged me, and because of not staying in that box, she had an event coming up and she almost moved the date to the event because her numbers weren't where she needed them to be. And so she was about to move the date and she heard me in her ear saying, complete what you start. We never moved the date. And because she did that, she did everything she could do in 12 days and sold out. It only took 12 days. She reached out to 100 people a day and she filled the event. So her event's to come now in the next few days. I am 100% sure, because I know this girl, that she will probably do somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300,000, $350,000 on that event. Imagine if she would have put herself in the box, because she's not ready. So you're never ready. You're never ready because your goal was never to stay.
Don't. There, now I did it properly. I want to leave you today with a thought. And I will go back to never before has a conversation about death and morbidity felt so alive and hopeful and optimistic. Instead of that, people say, think outside the box. So my advice to you is act inside the coffin, which is to smash the lid of the coffin. Don't get boxed inside and realize your potential, your mission, your purpose. Shanda Sumpter, you were the perfect guest number 400. And you know who else thought so? Chuck Norris thought so as well.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back next week. Shanda, truly an absolute pleasure. Take care, everyone. And go do it. Start it now. What are you waiting for? You could die tomorrow. Go now. Go.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.